Welcome to Parent Boss Leader, the podcast where we explore leadership and innovation in the staffing industry. Brought to you by ATR International, I'm Laura Reinhardt Munson, an experienced staffing executive and a multitasking busy modern mom, sharing insights to help you lead and empower your team. Tune in, subscribe, and elevate your leadership because building a great team starts with great insight. Hello, and welcome to Parent Boss Leader, powered by ATR International, where we dive into the journeys of leaders across industries to uncover their stories, insights, and values. I'm your host, Laura Munson, Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at ATR International, a premier staffing firm based in Santa Clara, California. Today, we're honored to have Fernando Hernandez with us. As Coca-Cola's global supplier diversity leader, Fernando is in the forefront of creating a more diverse and sustainable supply chain. We'll explore his career journey, hear his advice for aspiring leaders, discuss the balance of parenthood in today's fast-paced world, and gain insights about his approach to building a top-tier team. Fernando, thank you for joining us on the podcast. To start, would you share a little bit about your personal and professional journey and what led you to your role at Coca-Cola?
Well, first and foremost, thank you, Laura. I appreciate you taking the time to do this interview, and I appreciate ATR for its leadership and getting a lot of us out into the podcast world so we can express something that we're really passionate about, which is supplier diversity and trying to help society. So I would answer the latter part of your question, why? Why? Because I think that what we do here is meaningful and because it makes a difference in many people's lives.
I love that. With such an impactful role at Coca-Cola, what inspired you to pursue a career in supplier diversity?
Well, what inspired me to do the work that I do in supplier diversity was from my legacy of having built a very successful marketing program. I led multicultural marketing for 10 years at AT&T. So I proved that I can create from nothing, pretty much. Any year we do $1.5–2 billion a year in multicultural marketing. Brought to market products that you would know, prepaid cards, the first use of voice over IP, which was something called Savings Line to Mexico. Today, you would know it as WhatsApp and a lot of interesting other
Incredible.
solutions. Yeah. So if I had some venture money at the time, we'd be having a different conversation now. So all kidding aside, I had a great run there. But what I observed was corporate America is very good about doing business with women and diverse groups, but lesser so of really engaging them as vendors, engaging them as suppliers and strategic partners. So I got to the point that I said I wanted to give back. And that's the why. It's to balance it out. I thought I would only do it for a year or two, give back for a year or two, but I really enjoyed what I was doing. But Laura, you'll observe that your friend here, I do supplier diversity very differently because having been a business person and had profit and loss responsibility and having to have built a whole organization that, thank God, was successful, I approached this as a business as well. So whether it was approaching supplier diversity as a business at AT&T and creating a $1 billion program for them and getting them into the $1 billion roundtable, or doing the same thing for Microsoft, creating, by the time I left, that was $5.2 billion in tier one, and about $600 million in tier two, and taking both of those programs globally. I kept learning and trying to refine. And here at Coca-Cola, it's taken me about 3.5 years to create a multi-billion dollar program, getting us into the $1 billion roundtable. And I'm proud to say we made good on the $500 million commitment on African American spend after the tragedy of George Floyd. So for me, it's about getting it done. It's not about
Mhm.
talking a good game, it's about getting it done.
That's amazing. You've done so many incredible things in your career, Fernando. People who know you have watched you. I'm sure people even seeing your background can see it. So, a burning question would be, what advice would you offer to professionals really aiming to rise in their careers, particularly in fields like sustainability or supplier diversity?
Well, those are both fields that I've been an early pioneer in. And I would say, first and foremost, Laura, um, just to take you off track just a little bit, is what is your personal motivation?
Yeah.
And what is your personal relationship with the divine? If you
Mhm.
believe in the divine or whatever supreme power that you may or may not believe in,
Mhm.
or whatever you believe in. Um,
Mhm.
to me, I believe in God, and I believe that it's a calling to do the type of work that we're doing. That
Mhm.
to some people that could be trite or it could be cute or it could be cheesy, but it's the truth. So it starts with that. So be true to who you are and do something that resonates with you. Um,
Mhm.
it's not about the money because there's a lot of easier ways to make a lot more money in corporate America. Trust me, I know
Mhm.
them and I chose to do this because it resonated with me. So
Mhm.
do what resonates with you as a human being. Um, then do this in a professional manner. Execute with excellence. Um,
Mhm.
be committed to the work. It's hard. It's not easy,
Yeah.
especially as the pendulum goes from side to side as to um,
Mhm.
initiatives around D&I are important or not so
Mhm.
much, depending on kind of what's happening at any given time. You have to stay committed to what you're doing and keep your focus on one set of objectives is what you're going to go do for society first and foremost.
Mm.
How can you support women? How can you support minorities, veterans,
Mhm.
people with disabilities, people that are gay, etc. But any human
Mhm.
being. So if a white middle-aged person wants to come and visit with me, that's fine with me.
Mhm.
They're all people, right? And I think
Mhm.
people miss that factor of true diversity for me is everyone. So
Mhm.
don't look to divide, look to unify, look to help everyone would be
Mhm.
my underlying current in this. And then
Mhm.
operate it as a business. On the business side, if the corporation you work for has goals and objectives that are clearly laid out, that becomes your marching orders. That's what you're here to do, and you're here to execute. So
Mhm.
be data driven, and meet your goals and objectives head on, and
Mhm.
strive for excellence, whatever
Mhm.
excellence in your given field is. And
Mhm.
that for me is kind of the recipe.
Mhm. Thank you for even the reminder to really to keep our faith too in life. I think more than ever in this world these days, and kind of seeing what your internal integrity is and let that be your driving force in your career. I think that's really great advice, and remembering people, speaking up for those who can't speak for themselves or lifting up people who feel marginalized. I think that's very powerful. Now, kind of talking about your own team and your focus on supplier diversity and sustainability, that brings incredible value to Coca-Cola. What are some of the key initiatives you're leading, and how do they contribute to the company's overall impact goals?
Well, at Coca-Cola, I lead supplier diversity globally. At Microsoft, I did both sustainability and supplier diversity and accessibility. So I have a lot of passion for sustainability. I created a top 2% in the world sustainability program. So very passionate about that, and we can talk about that in the future. But yeah, but as far as my existing role in supplier diversity, um, from my point of view, it's you're looking to add value back to the corporation. It's a business. So are there opportunities that you can enable revenue? And people are surprised when I say that. I say, no, it's a business. So if you're a business that does federal, state, or local contracting, many times supplier diversity, sustainability, etc., are requirements of participating in those. Are you geared up for the challenge? Are you ready to be able to contribute to enable revenue for the sales team on that side of the house? That's important. If we look at another piece inside the corporation, strategic partners. So if the account team from McDonald's comes to us and says, Fernando, will you support our global initiative around supplier diversity? I say yes, and I support them. If you have Kroger's coming to the table, or Walmart, or Amazon, or other strategic partners, you do your best to support them. So these are all motions that align with sales, marketing, and business development. So that's part of the gig, is doing that. To the degree that you're touching and enabling revenue and supporting sales, people respect you because you're being looked at as kind of a holistic manager, that you can balance the external and the internal. From the mission to help society and to help the groups we've mentioned before, I think we live in an AI age. And Laura, as we move forward in that space, I think what I've done is I've tried to partner with folks, and you'll see coming out next year, and working on a suite of AI agents to support all levels of business, small, mid-size, and large business. Yeah, that's specific to, if you've ever had a burning desire to bring forth a business and you don't know how to start, well, this gives you an opportunity to sit down and basically you're writing in. It's built with 32 GPTs, not one.
Wow.
So yeah, and it's global. So it's a
Wow.
lot of my learning from working at Microsoft for 15 years. And I'm a technologist. I have a master's degree in technology. My passion for it has gone into this. And so it worked very well because it goes from you just having a basic idea, and before you know it, it helps you to create a business plan. And after
Wow.
that, what should be my elevator pitch? And after that, it craft a deck that you can use for clients. It'll do that. It'll do a lot of things, including help you to develop things like videos
Wow.
associated with it. So you start at the beginning of the day with nothing or an idea, a concept, and it flushes everything out. And I think that's what entrepreneurs need. And that's what small business need, mid-size, and even, I dare say, large, because that's the future. The future is about what we call agentic AI. And it's basically having agents like Siri, Cortana, Alexa doing your work on your behalf, even more in a more expeditious way than today, ChatGPT or OpenAI. So look at it as being, that smart concierge that always travels with you and you can speak to, because the roadmaps are typically that you speak to the agent, you tell it what you want to do. Like you would say, hey, I want to plan a family trip, right? To this place for these amount of days, et cetera, et cetera. And it just plans it all out for you. Then it comes back and says, do you like this? Should I book it or not? And so the world, if you think about it, that's personal. If you think about it from business, it would do an RFP on the fly. Well, it might take weeks. It would do it on the fly. So the world is shifting and changing. Our constituents have to know that and play in it. And so I'm helping in that area. I've invested for Coca-Cola with a Rise Up crowdfunding, which is a crowdfunding portal to help women, minorities raise capital in a in a different way, one that typically is a lot more friendlier to this demographic than other sources of raising capital. I can go on and on. We have the diverse yellow pages where you can actually, if you're in a given city and you want to do business with a woman or a minority-owned business, a diverse-owned business, a veteran, they're in there. So you can just dive in and you can find them, oh, I want to go to a bed and breakfast that's owned by veterans. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Go
Wow.
search for it. Here you go.
Mm-hmm.
So different types of platforms and tools to align and support because they're highly scalable, or and those are the things I try to look for these days because there's only one of me. We have a small but mighty team. They're terrific
Mm-hmm.
human beings and they're passionate about what they do. But I always
Mm-hmm.
think now in terms of how do I scale it
Mm-hmm.
and how do I take
Wow.
it global?
Mm-hmm. You brought so many topics up, and I'm tempted to run on any one direction with those topics. They're fascinating to see even where the world's going. And I think it's incredible what you're doing over there. And I think that even how AI is coming into play with all of our careers, embracing it and seeing it as an agent is so interesting. Um, but let's stick with parenting for now, too. When you
Mhm.
and I first met, I laugh. We kind of were at a networking event. Within two
Mhm.
minutes, I could tell how much you love your family. And it really made me smile as a parent of young kids too. And a
Mhm.
lot of our listeners are parents. So, as a dedicated parent yourself, Fernando, how do you balance a high level career with family responsibilities? And what advice would you give to other parents in leadership roles? There can be quite a conflict in those two roles.
Yeah, I think you're hitting on very good questions, and I saw that in you and as well, and we had a robust conversation around that when we
Hmm.
first met. I think first and foremost, what is your perspective on family and in children overall? And that's important. So it calibrates your thinking or our thinking here. For me, I think that children are the better part of us. So I start from that perspective that we've been entrusted with these phenomenal, amazing human beings, and we're
Hmm.
blessed. We're blessed to
True.
have them. And since they're the better part of us, we owe it to them to really love them and care for them and develop them and support them to the best of our abilities. And I think it's the dynamic load balancing because it's dynamic. It's like you have to almost
Yep.
like do this real time. Every day is different, every week is different. We have demanding roles, demanding careers. So I think it's so important to
Hmm.
schedule things out, to plan things
Hmm.
out, to just have enough good coverage day to day, especially when the children are younger. My children are
Hmm.
older now, but
Hmm.
I remember the days of, my kids are both martial artists. My son's a black belt, my daughter's a brown belt.
Wow.
And yeah, and they all different musical instruments. And
Hmm.
so you had all of that. And on top of that, my daughter sings opera. So it was, yeah, a
Wow.
series of different types of demands to be driving from point A to point B. So scheduling is so important, having coverage between different members of the family. It's great if you have extended family around you. It's always great. A lot of times you don't have it. So
Hmm.
you have to rely on, as we know, great people in your community of friends and extended family in a sense to be able to
Hmm.
pull it off. Um,
Hmm.
I think one thing that I would say is there's no shortcuts. So letting, letting the old cell phone or your TV kind of be the nanny, probably not
Hmm.
the best idea in the world, you know.
Hmm.
I know it's hard.
Hmm.
It's not easy, but one has to challenge that one as hard as you can
Yeah.
because kids are gravitating more and more to that.
Yep.
You kind of see the outcomes of social media. It's got
Oh yeah.
some good, but it's got a lot of things that are not
Sure.
particularly great, and so we have to balance it as human beings. Um, I think getting the kids interested in things that are healthy that they can do on their own. I mentioned a few,
Hmm.
martial arts or the arts in general. My
Hmm.
daughter was fortunate enough to again sing and she could do fine arts, so she could paint and she could play the viola and the piano. So you can see, and a person that really enjoyed reading these are all things that you have to foster in human beings, right, Laura? If I see that
Yep.
you are gifted in the arts, and we were family, I would say, hey, Laura, why don't we this weekend? Why don't we have a family trip to the museum? You know, pick the day. Usually museums, they have one day a month that's free. Pick that
Yeah.
day and just take everybody on
Mhm.
a Sunday. And it not only enriches that one child, but enriches the whole family, and it doesn't break the
Yeah.
bank. And so
Yeah.
a lot of times it's just being creative, but you got to get out of your comfort zone and get out there many
Yeah.
times and engage with things that you otherwise wouldn't want to do. It's like, oh my
Yep.
Lord, it's the weekend. I just want to like crawl up and not have
Yeah.
to do email. Well, but in the long run, if you think about it, the Munchkins are going to be in that time period where they want to spend time with mom and dad for a limited amount of time. If you really break
Mhm.
it down, so 0 to 5, it's those formative years,
Yep.
and then they go off to school, right? And then they start to get formed in school. And then by the time they're, let's say, in their teens, then mom and dad aren't the coolest people in the world for a while.
Mhm.
And it's all
Mhm.
about their friends and sports and everything. So it's breaking it down into seasons.
Mhm.
The author Thoreau wrote about that, the golden
Mhm.
years. Well, he also
Yep.
wrote about people in 3 different seasons. Your
Yeah.
early years, your middle life, and your golden years. That's the one we always remember. But I would
Mhm.
say be similar to that type of thinking, like
Mhm.
Thoreau. See kids in the different seasons, and then it helps you to just hang on because it's tough. We've all
Yeah.
been there. So
Yeah.
the first wave is difficult, just getting them
Mhm.
to that point that they're solid enough that they can go to kindergarten, and then the the formative years are in school require a lot of time and attention. But if you look at it as incremental, chunks, it helps you kind of break it down into digestible pieces and
Yeah.
then pump them full of like great things to do that
Mhm.
actually, will inspire them and pay dividends in the future.
Yeah.
Um, that, I don't think anybody in this seat has the magic bullet. It's like, it's kind of like the Chinese say you have to ride the tiger sometimes.
Yeah.
You're just hanging on, and sometimes there's days
True.
that all you're doing is
Yeah.
hanging on. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Mhm.
We all feel guilty. Oh
Yeah.
my God, it's another fast food night. These things happen. So
Yeah.
give yourself a little bit of largesse
Yeah.
and a break.
Yeah.
No one is perfect.
Yeah. I love that. Hearing you share about kids being the better part of us, I think that's beautiful thinking that way. And I like your practical and simple advice to leaning into looking at your kids and seeing what they show interest in, and even commit as a family or even as a single parent, just going in and doing things they want to do, whether it's at a museum or if it is martial arts or swimming, leaning into what interests them. And knowing you with kids who've grown up a bit, they still have such a great relationship with you. And I think that's because of the way that you really love them and leaned into them the whole time they were growing up. So I appreciate that advice, especially having young kids. So I want to emulate that as well. And I think going back towards your team at work a bit too. So kind of building a really strong team at Coca-Cola, what qualities or attributes do you look for when hiring team members?
I look for people that are passionate, Laura. You can solve for everything. Most people in corporate America, I'd say 95%, are very
Hmm.
intelligent individuals. So
Hmm.
intelligence is kind of like in this day and age given.
Yeah.
But are they passionate about the mission?
Yeah.
Because I can pretty much solve for anything else if the person is intelligent, solid. But if they
Hmm.
don't have passion, then we're not going anywhere. Because
Hmm.
again, these jobs are difficult. They look easy, but if you're going to do it at a world-class level that
Yeah.
I've attempted to do, and hopefully I'm doing, um, it's you have to perform. It's kind of like an Olympic athlete. You
Hmm.
have to you got to perform. You got to get out there, and it's hard every day. So look at the
Mm-hmm.
people that are really passionate about what we're looking to achieve and why. It's important to ask yourself, do you really believe that this is important, that we help and support women on their path to grow
Mm-hmm.
businesses, or
Mm-hmm.
diverse owned businesses, or veterans, or LGBTQ people, or people with disability that have a
Mm-hmm.
passion to build business? Well, if we
Mm-hmm.
do, then you're goal aligned.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not, then great, then go do something else. There's a lot of great things you can do in corporate America today or on the nonprofit world. But if you choose this profession, know that it's hard, know that it requires passion and excellence and a lot of hard work. And those are the team members that run with me. And trust me, we run. I use that word, and I punctuate it because when you have momentum in building these programs, you have to continue. That's one of the keys. They're like, how do you build these companies to, BDR level, world class level? It's a lot of it is momentum, getting the right support from senior leaders, but having your team understand that once you have the momentum, you have to continue it and
Mm-hmm.
build off it. So people that can run at that speed, people that are looking into the future, that understand things like what we were talking about earlier, about where's the future going and what will be the role of AI in business. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to be a person that really understands business.
Yeah,
If you don't understand business, then again, very difficult to do anything with that person.
that's true.
So think about it. People take it for granted that people in supplier diversity are not business people. No, the people
Mm-hmm.
that do well, trust me, are real business people. And they're looking for things like greenfield areas of business. What do I mean by
Mm-hmm.
that? Cutting
Yeah.
edge areas where the business, like most businesses, corporation, corporations are just scratching the surface. Again,
Mm-hmm.
let's point to AI, right? It
Yeah.
seems to be the topic today. And, unless you as a practitioner understand the basics of these technologies, right?
Yeah.
Digital transformation, AI, and understand how it's going to play into the future, then you really can't inform the company you work for as to identify areas that are going to be great for these diverse owned businesses and these women owned businesses
Yeah.
that they can thrive and grow in. So you have to understand the business to help them and to
Mm-hmm.
add value into the business that you're in.
Yeah.
So they have to be passionate, knowledgeable in business. They have to be
Yeah.
intelligent. They have to be willing to run hard. And that's kind of the simple formula for me.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right because intelligence is one thing that's expected nowadays, but really having that competitive edge is a person who's passionate, person who really seeks to understand, have EQ with other people. And you mentioned AI, and I love the thread in this conversation we're having, and I love your perspective on AI as well, Fernando. What about the future of AI excites you the most?
I think there's so many interesting things, Laura, around AI, but you mentioned something a second ago, which is EQ. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, AI is kind of cold. It's more, it has
True.
a lot of, you
Mm-hmm.
know, first of all, nothing's going to reply. There's two types of AI. There's
Mm-hmm.
artificial intelligence and actual intelligence. You have actual intelligence, right, my friend? So it's going to be very hard to replace you for a very long time, right? For our foreseeable future in our lifetime. I don't think they're going to pull it off. But at any rate, the other thing is EQ. There's a lot more to be done. So you're going to see more and more people. Like, think about the need for people that are psychologists, anthropologists, and people
Mm-hmm.
that understand the human condition and their
Mm-hmm.
contribution that is going to have to be made into platforms like deep learning, machine learning, and AI.
Yeah.
Because you're right, we are human beings, and it's that
Mm-hmm.
EQ that you're going to see lots of opportunities to incorporate it into business.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, I think that there's a lot of great opportunities in that space. There's people doing a lot of work um, to try to infuse that into some of these large language models and agentic systems and homomorphic systems, which are just a fancy way of saying systems that learn on its own. It learns and it learns and it learns. And
Mm-hmm.
and so I think it's an exciting time for
Mm-hmm.
for sure. And I think from a business perspective, it's going to pay dividends, but you have to lean in. You got to be like all in to this technology because in 3 years from now, we'll remember this conversation. We'll say, wow, it really is a different world. And fortunately or unfortunately, it will be, but a
Yeah.
very different world that we'll be operating in.
Yeah. It's true. I wonder what it'll be like. Feels like technology changes every 20 minutes or so. I I
It's
would be
accelerating.
curious.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
accelerating very quickly.
Mm-hmm. It is. Fernando, last question. And this question, I'm sure you've had on at least 100 panels being in your role. For diverse suppliers aiming to work with a company like Coca-Cola, what
Mhm.
advice would you give to help them stand out and really create a mutually beneficial partnership?
I love that question because I'm always very candid about it. I tell people you really have to understand the dynamics of your own company, which is easy, but
Mhm,
now the company that you're targeting, and understand
mhm,
honestly do these things align, right?
mhm,
And be brutally honest because you have to understand if there's an alignment with your product and or service that you're looking to align. So kind of know thyself from a corporate perspective.
mhm,
Understand what your go-to-market strategy is. So if you're a company on the West Coast, right, is your
mhm,
strategy going to be more um, industry specific, meaning, oh, I'm going to fly up and down the West Coast and target all the tech companies because they're all there, right? Fine, if that's how you're going to go to market. There's others that are
mhm,
going to be more of like, no, I'm going to focus on the, the Fortune 500 and the top, let's say 50. Great. Um,
mhm,
there's others that are just looking at it practically and saying, I'm a small company and my
mhm,
footprint is reasonably small. So I'm just
mhm,
going to be hyper local, right?
mhm,
All of those. And it's kind of like, circle and a circle and a square and a circle and a triangle, etc. You have to extract the what's right for you and your offering at this time. And is your offer future proof? We've been talking a lot about technology. Is it
mhm,
future proof? Right?
mhm,
Like what is the future of staffing in an AI world? You and your team have to go and think that one through, right?
mhm.
And formulate
Yeah.
some great opinions on how you can jump in front of the future, because that's where the
Mhm.
value is.
Yeah.
So I'd say it's those sorts of things from,
Mhm.
and then there's practical things. I give you like a practical thing that nobody does, right? You see how you're engaging people like myself and pulling them into podcasts. Excellent
Mhm.
marketing strategy, right? We get to create something of value, hopefully, to post
Mhm.
into the world. But at the same
Mhm.
time, we get to connect as colleagues and professionals. I think that's always smart. So, leveraging social media in a good way, being
Mhm.
active on LinkedIn again in a good way. I
Mhm.
think I think makes a lot of sense. Creating digital calling cards, which no one does. You
Mhm.
know, only 1% to 2% of all content in the world is
Mhm.
video today. Although,
Wow.
yeah, when you ask 85% of people would prefer consuming content, how? In video
Mhm.
format, right?
Wow.
So, yeah, so you think about it, where do you land? You land in, well, what if I created a short, the 30-second ask or the 1 minute ask, and you send it to people like myself and say, hey, Fernando, you give me 30 seconds or 1 minute, this short video here is going to tell you it's Reader's Digest version of what our company is all about. Will you give me
Yeah.
1 minute? Right? Will you
Yeah.
give me 1 minute? So it's the 1 minute ask. But
Yeah.
few people actually do that. Use technologies that are readily available, like this little
Mhm.
video that I'm saying, instead of sending an email, you can send an
Yeah.
email and you can just link it to a short little video.
Yeah.
So it's practical things like that that kind of
Yeah,
make you pop from the rest of the folks and
yeah.
differentiate you in an intelligent way. So I would say those are some little tidbits.
Amazing. I'm wondering, everyone listening, I'm like, free marketing advice from Fernando.
Well, I
I
spent
love
10
it.
years, 10
Yeah,
years doing marketing. So it's
yeah.
funny. First and foremost, I'm a marketer. I'm a salesperson,
Hmm.
and then I'm a person that's done this type of work because I love to give back. But a lot of times when I consult with people, because I
Yeah.
see it as a consulting gig, they're my clients, people like yourself and others. It's
Yeah.
like I'm busy, but when you get me, I sit down and
Yeah.
I try to be present and I
Yeah.
try to listen and learn. And then
Mhm.
at the end, try to help people and give them the best advice you can. Because another little secret is I own my own businesses when I was,
Mhm.
before I did my corporate gig, I was in
Mhm.
commercial real estate in New York City, 100% commission.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, I owned other businesses. So I know what it is to have to make payroll on Friday.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you haven't lived in those shoes, it's an
Yeah.
interesting space, to say the least.
Oh, I bet. That's incredible. And I think you're giving a lot of practical advice too. And you've learned it tried and true because that's do or die when you're running your own business. I think that's really good advice. In fact, I have a little notebook next to me. I'm thinking, create a video and send it out.
Do
I
it,
love
my
that.
friend.
Yeah.
You'll see how well it works. And you tie it to that notion of, hey, it's
Mhm.
just 1 minute. If you give me 1 minute of your time,
Yes. That's
and
doable, right?
it's digestible. It's not a heavy ask of an individual, and it
Yeah.
creates an expectation. It's like, yeah, I'll hang in there 30 seconds or 1 minute. Typically
Yeah.
now, anything people's attention spans are collapsing. So it's got to be probably 30 seconds to a minute, no longer. But
Yeah.
do it.
No
It
playing an
works.
accordion. Yes. I love
Yeah.
that.
Only on the weekends.
Kind of do something entertaining. I like that.
That's
Uh,
good.
Fernanda, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. Really appreciate you.
Well, thank you, Laura. Thanks for your kindness and thanks for all you're doing. And thank you to ATR for bringing you
Yeah.
to the airwaves in a sense.
Oh,
Take
appreciate
care.
it. Yeah, you gave some great advice. So, for folks listening, Fernando is an amazing human being. If people would like to find you, LinkedIn, probably best place, right, Fernando? Okay.
Sure.
And then to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. If you've enjoyed our conversation, please like and subscribe for more. Thank you.